Hello and welcome everyone. It is time to enter the Kumite. I am joined today by my friend and fellow colleague Cole Halverson
Hello again.
and our technical engineer, the Ninth Row Ninja himself, Sean Myers. This episode we will be digging into UFC 264, Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor.
The rematch.
The rematch. Ooh, say that 3 times fast. The rubber match. But first, if you enjoy the content that we're providing, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Okay, so let's dig into both fighters, see where they're at right now in their careers and in their life. Dustin Poirier is 27-6, coming off the TKO win over none other than Conor McGregor himself.
Yeah.
He's the former interim UFC lightweight champion. As of January 25th, 2021, he is number 1 in the UFC lightweight rankings. He's a Louisiana boy, trains at American Top Team in South Florida. He is actually tied for the most knockout victories in UFC lightweight division history, with 7. He's tied with Melvin Gillard and Edson Barboza.
Damn.
He and his wife are the founder of the Good Fight Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that focuses on opening up activity centers for kids in poverty-stricken areas to have a safe place to exercise and participate in various activities. He could have easily fought for the title. Dustin deserves the title shot.
I totally agree.
He took out a lot of killers along the way.
Very impressive career.
But he decided to take that money fight with Conor McGregor. So can't fault the man for that. And he kind of want. I think a piece of him kind of wanted that fight back.
Oh yeah, kind of seal the deal, get the closure on it.
Yeah, get that win. That win over Conor McGregor. If he can win the Conor McGregor trilogy, that ups his stock a lot.
It ups his stock, and I'm sure it ups his clout amongst the UFC rankings. Just taking out Conor McGregor is a feat.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who are just past that point of casuals who say that Conor McGregor's nothing. That's not true. Conor McGregor was a double champ. It means a lot if you beat Conor McGregor.
In my opinion, Conor McGregor almost made the UFC what it is today.
For the amount of popularity that's receiving, there's a lot of Conor McGregor fans. A lot of the casuals back when Conor McGregor was really popping, they stuck around.
Yeah.
They ended up finding other fighters that they liked, and they followed those fighters.
Yeah.
So Conor McGregor did a lot of good for the UFC and a lot of good for the sport as a whole, not even just the UFC. McGregor said that he would donate half of his purse to the Good Fight Foundation after their second fight. After a couple of months of McGregor not paying out, Poirier called him out on Twitter saying that he never paid the foundation.
I do remember looking at that little scuff on social media.
Yeah, he's calling his integrity into question. If that is how things went down, then that would have been terrible for McGregor's reputation. He would have been a full-time whiskey salesman by then.
Oh yeah.
If that was the case, because you would assume that a piece of him not paying is he's a sore loser. He got less money from losing for losing that fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, losing the fight is one thing, but to straight up be a sore loser and a liar with no integrity is another.
But thankfully, that was not the case.
Thankfully, yep. Conor McGregor said that his team was looking into the foundation, making sure that Dustin Poirier isn't going to take a whole bunch of money from McGregor,
Which
and
is
run
totally
off with
fair. Totally fair. I'm
It
not gonna give a bunch of money to a foundation that I'm not, familiar with.
I think Poirier kind of rushed the situation, and Poirier did come out on Twitter and he apologized for bringing something so, such an intimate deal to the public, and trying to smear Conor's name, because Conor did end up donating in full.
At the end of the day, those two are on good standings.
Yeah.
In that aspect.
Right. I feel like they almost started that little bit of beef just to have some beef going into the next fight.
Just something to get fired up about.
Yeah. I bet you they had dinner together and talked about doing it and had a good laugh about it. But who knows what's going on behind the scenes?
No one knows.
All right, Conor McGregor. Where is he at in his life and in his career?
The myth, the legend,
notorious.
The notorious.
He is 22-5. Man, it's been weird watching that record just kind of,
balance out.
Yeah, it's like the scales of Lady Justice. Coming off of a TKO loss to, Dustin Poirier.
Man himself.
McGregor is a former Cage Warriors featherweight and lightweight champion. He is a former UFC featherweight and lightweight double champion. He was the first double champ. Same time. First double champ of all time. That's a historical moment right there. I can't believe people are looking over that and just trying to call Conor McGregor fans as casuals. I mean, some of them are, but
people don't do that.
Yeah.
Except for Amanda Nunes, but we're not talking about her.
Except for Amanda Nunes. Daniel Cormier? Yeah, Daniel Cormier was also a double champ.
Oh, he did too?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I mean, Stipe ended up coming back and taking it, but he was a double champ. So even if you just have it for a small amount of time,
he had it.
I mean, McGregor totally just ditched both belts after he became double champ and just walked away because he didn't want to even risk it. McGregor, man, he's a real rags to riches stories. He started off as a poverty-stricken Irishman working as a plumber, and now he has a net worth of $85 million. I mean, that's just crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's an inspiring story.
Literal rags to riches.
I suggest everybody to go and watch The Notorious to really see, the ins and outs of.
And you wouldn't think that with the way, like, if you only watch him from UFC, you wouldn't think that with the way he holds himself, the way he dresses.
He has a certain kind of pride. He has a certain kind of aura about him that just makes you want to pay attention to what he's saying, and what he's doing.
And when you got that kind of money, I mean, why wouldn't you look great?
Right.
Why wouldn't you look great?
But Conor McGregor trains at the Super Blast Gym in Dublin, Ireland, with John Kavanagh and Owen Roddy. Such a good team. I can't wait to see them, get some more, prospects and bring them up. Me as, a third-generation Irishman here in America, I want to see some good Irish fighters come up, and they do have a fantastic training facility. Okay, Conor McGregor, he's 3-3 in his last 6. All of it's a good competition, but he's not been shining. But no, I don't think Conor McGregor is washed up. All of this talk about Conor not being focused is likely a bunch of fucking nonsense. The truth is that Conor and his game plan came up short that night and several nights. Poirier won the fight, so why does the narrative have to be that the more popular fighter lost due to them being washed up?
Conor's always going to be a threat.
He's always going to be a threat.
There's a reason he's still in the top 10. There's a reason he's still in the top 5.
But it just drives me crazy that because someone has all this star power, people have this like holy moment feeling, and they think, oh, the fighter came up short.
No, dude.
The fighter wasn't
human,
focused.
Man.
Oh, the fighter
human.
This, the fighter that, and it's like, no, it has nothing to do with that. The only reason you're thinking that is because you're delusional. Because he has such a star power. He has such an aura of like, hey, you're watching me right now. I'd love to say that Conor hasn't lost any of his fire, but it is hard to believe that someone showed up on a yacht for their cage fight. That's hard to believe. It's got to make it at least a little bit harder to get out of bed and go get punched in the face.
He showed up on a yacht?
He showed up to Abu Dhabi on a yacht. He had people park his yacht. He was meditating on his yacht. There's all kinds of pictures of, him just doing his thing, warming up on his yacht, doing his. That's got to change a person's motivation to some extent. I'm not saying that's an excuse for McGregor. I don't think that's why McGregor lost. I think McGregor lost because he did not plan out all of the ins and outs of this fight. I think he thought he was going to finish Dustin in the first, maybe the second round.
Kind of like he did the first one.
I predicted a Conor McGregor second round TKO.
Yeah, same.
And it happened vice versa. All right, so let's dig into this fight because this is a really interesting fight. A lot of things to go over. Let's start with wrestling, right? As for the wrestling, I believe that Dustin needs to bait out the counter left to McGregor. This will help Dustin to properly set up a takedown. Otherwise, Conor is probably going to be keen to it ahead of time, and he's going to dig for those underhooks. Conor does have good takedown defense. I feel that
he had to be good at takedown defense.
Dude, everybody was just trying to wrestle him because they couldn't take that left hand. And now, people can stand up with McGregor. I feel that McGregor's going to come out kind of hastily and try to end this fight early. The longer the fight goes, the stronger I think Dustin will perform. Dustin has great cardio. Dustin's going to be cumulatively adding up those leg kicks. Okay, so you can see some of the mechanics here from their first fight where Dustin gets his takedown in the first round. Dustin throws a prominent overhand left feint. This gets Conor to reactively throw his counter left down the center. Dustin dips underneath and couldn't get his hands gripped together, so he pulls Conor's left leg out and drives his hips in that direction. Dustin gets his takedown, but Conor scoots all the way across the cage to his corner and ends up using the cage to get back to his feet. Conor really has underrated grappling.
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah. He had to be good at grappling whenever he started getting beat by Khabib. I mean, whenever you're training to go against that kind of grappler, you don't have a choice.
Going against a Dagestani wrestler,
you either get put in the ground and freaking tapped out or just beat down, or you adapt.
Yeah, I think he could be a little bit better at adjusting his scrambles.
Yeah.
But he knows the basics, and he's really strong. And
he's a striker.
He's good at framing.
At the basics, like
he's good at head positioning. I think most people underrate his grappling due to almost all of his losses now coming by way of submission. But I feel that Conor's weakness is more so him not performing well through adversity, rather than him not having high caliber grappling.
I agree. Once he starts losing momentum in the fight, he does tend to start dialing back, and it almost seems like he's like questioning himself.
Yeah, and he kind of you can watch him like kind of break down when he's not in control of the fight.
Almost gets like a concerned look on his face whenever he starts, taking a couple of shots.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the clinch to see if we can find anything obvious to point out. First off, I'd like to say that the clinch is very evenly matched. I don't think either fighter will be too dominant here. But that being said, every second spent in the clinch is a tiny win for Poirier, in my opinion. He has the better gas tank. He's more versatile as a fighter. There's more things he can do from the clinch in terms of grappling. This is going to be a war of the underhooks. And I wonder if we'll see more of that shoulder striking war, because they definitely were just both
back
landing
and forth,
those
man. It
shoulder
was so
strikes.
funny to watch.
Yeah.
Back and forth against the cage.
Yeah, Poirier definitely did it to make.
If it comes to shoulders, I really think that Conor's got the upper hand. I think he's got better leverage. I think he's got broader shoulders. And
so where does Conor win in the clinch, right? He's always quick to adjust his head pressure. This helps to give him space to throw strikes in the clinch. Conor McGregor in that first fight, he was throwing uppercuts, knees, elbows, foot stomps, because he would use that head pressure, and he would also be fighting for that underhook, and he would give himself that little bit of space, and he's really good at timing when to throw a strike and when to not. He never got punished for it from Poirier, and Poirier barely landed anything in the clinch. So in the clinch, when things are neutral, when neither fighter is necessarily winning in the clinch, if Conor has the gas tank, he will likely be outstriking Poirier.
As long as his back's not against the cage, and Conor's got the upper hand in the clinch, I think that's where that's going to
definitely if he has the upper hand. But even when he had his back against the cage, if Poirier didn't have too much leverage over his body, then Conor was still making that space with the head pressure, and he was still landing strikes. So I think when things are neutral, or if Conor's in control of the clinch, I think he's going to be outstriking Poirier. Poirier seems to be a bit stronger physically, and he'll probably spend more time pushing Conor against the cage, working for a takedown and grinding him down. But when Conor explodes, man, he overpowers Dustin. He just can't sustain it, and Dustin will probably take back the dominant position before too long. That's how I see the clinch and most of the grappling play out. I really only see Dustin getting a strong takedown if he baits out that counter left to McGregor, or makes McGregor throw something and dips underneath. Poirier does have to be careful when shooting, because Conor does love to throw that knee and throw those uppercuts. You could tell he really trained for that hard for Khabib. He's definitely wanting to finish Khabib with the striking.
Yeah.
To counter his grappling, because he knew Khabib was coming in there to grapple. So let's get into the striking. This is the real juiciness of the fight here, and there's so many things to talk about. So I just picked a few really strong points, things I feel like I had to point out. First off, I have to say it is hard to predict exactly how McGregor will come out for this fight. If he comes out with a plodding, heavy on the front leg boxing stance, Poirier is going to go back to those calf kicks right out of the gate.
Yeah, he's already said that the calf kicks were detrimental to his game plan.
Yeah, Conor McGregor admitted that. So why would Poirier not go back to it when he sees the opportunity? He obviously can't just come out there and start kicking his leg. That's not how fighting works.
Those calf kicks are just changing the game.
Yeah.
So
We've always known that Conor McGregor, in his stance, probably had a weakness for leg kicks. But nobody was ever really able to take advantage of it the way that Dustin Poirier did.
Yeah.
Poirier can fight out of both stances, but he prefers to fight Conor while in southpaw, so he has access to that rear calf kick. And that ended up, helping turn the tides of the fight, because I definitely had McGregor winning that first round.
That's another place where, or another area where Conor is weaker. Is Conor really generally doesn't like to change stances.
Yep, he's a southpaw through and through.
He likes to keep that power left hand ready and cocked back, and he doesn't like to change things up very much. So I would like to see Conor kind of switch stances a little bit and give Dustin a little bit of something like different.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Conor knows his strengths, and he's going to play to his strengths as much as he can. He loves to throw the 1-2 against Dustin, especially because of Dustin's Philly shell style. Conor McGregor was landing a lot of 1-2s. His jabs were definitely dealing some damage
early on in that second fight.
Yeah. Dustin Poirier landed some really good leg kicks in their first fight, actually, but they were to the thigh rather than the calf. Man, it's crazy how much more of an immediate impact it leaves. Crazy the progression of MMA. It changes so quickly.
You just got less protection on your lower to back calf and a little more protection on your thigh.
Yeah, there's also that nerve. You can get right behind the knee, hit that peroneal nerve.
Not as detrimental.
Yeah. Because with Conor's stance, we saw it. Dustin Poirier, in their first fight, did a lot of damage to that leg. If those were calf kicks, that might have been a little bit different. Conor might not have been able to march forward and knock him out like he did last time, or the first time out. What else to say? Conor loves the hand fight. In their last fight, McGregor would pull down the rear hand of Poirier and throw his left straight down the center on the inside of Dustin's lead arm, which is interesting because most people pull down the lead arm and throw. But with Dustin's Philly shell, Conor would take his lead hand, pull down the rear hand, and then throw before the lead hand could get up and block
Right, because that front hand's already low.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Smart.
Conor will also be jabbing often to mix up Poirier on this hand fighting. He needs Poirier to think sometimes that might be a jab, so I need to keep my guard up. Leave his guard up, and if Conor decides not to jab, he can pull that guard down now.
Right.
Otherwise, if Conor's just reaching, Dustin's going to either get out of the way or he's going to, throw a counter because your lead hand is down. Conor does have good head movement. So, that'll be interesting to see. Dustin uses the Philly shell style a lot, which doesn't have the tightest guard. That's why McGregor was landing so many powerful jabs. And his lean-in uppercut. That lean-in uppercut is nice. I love it of McGregor, but McGregor was using it too many times. McGregor threw a lot of the same combinations in that second fight. So that is, he does need to mix it up because Poirier caught on to that lean-in uppercut really quickly and started countering him with a lead hook. Look for Conor to feint that lean-in uppercut in this next fight to bait out Poirier's hook and counter him for it. I think Conor's going to try to add that extra level of game planning,
variety. Yeah.
You can try to.
You have to. Whenever you fight somebody 3 times, you get to feel out. Okay, this is their first game plan. Okay, they know what I do on this. Now they're going to change their game up on the second fight. Okay, now we got a third fight. I've got to change my game up even more.
Yeah, and it really is a game of chess. I got to be 3 moves ahead of you. So I'm going to do this, so you do that. So I do this, so you do that, so I can do this. It's sometimes even more than that.
It's a really good matchup, too. I
it is a good matchup. This is interesting. I don't know who's going to win this. I believe this will be one of SBG's switch-ups in their game plan to really bait out, add that extra level, that extra layer of striking. I'd love to see Conor start mixing in kicks to the body. Poirier is always concerning himself with Conor's boxing. I feel the body would be available for McGregor, and late game it'll help drop the hands of Poirier. So maybe he can land that.
Yeah.
Because Conor was headhunting, man.
I miss the old Conor style, man. He just used to be so...
Like a windmill.
Almost, what is it? Freaking Brazilian dance fighting.
The capoeira
freaking
kinda style.
capoeira
Yeah.
style, man. He would be so fluid.
Oh man, no, that's
I want to see that again.
exactly. But I think he's so worried about his gas tank now that he's leaning away from all of that
Yeah.
flashy stuff, just because he's felt that exhaustion, that level of exhaustion, and being stuck in a fight. Because that's the
Right.
worst, man.
These aren't scrubs anymore either.
When you're done, right? When you're exhausted and you're still in the fight and your well-being is on the line, that's scary stuff.
Right.
That's really scary stuff. And I've only done that in training. I can't imagine, being up on the world stage, everybody watching, and now I'm like done with the fight. Like I've done everything I could, and I couldn't finish you, and now I don't want to be here anymore. And you're coming forward, and you're trying to hit me with everything you got. Oh, that's so scary, dude. So let's take a look at things when either fighter's back is against the cage and they're being pressured. Poirier typically does two things when his back is against the cage. For one, he holds a high guard and rotates away from Conor's power left, especially when Conor's gauging the distance with that lead hand. He doesn't like to give him time to set up that straight. This is something else I think Conor might throw into his game plan if he has Poirier's back against the cage. I think he can throw spinning body kicks, maybe just power hooks or lead hooks.
Kind of mix it up a little bit.
To kind of use striking to cut off Dustin Poirier's escape route.
Yeah.
Because last time he was chasing him with that left hand. And Conor was marching forward too much, and he wasn't cutting off the escape routes for Dustin Poirier. So I think for this next one, when Conor does have his back, Poirier's back against the cage, I think he's going to play a little bit more patient, and I think he's going to try to cut off those routes.
Kind of punish him a little bit more towards the obvious exit and hope that he goes towards that left hand again, maybe.
Yeah. Or
Vice
free
versa.
shot to the body.
Yeah, whatever. You're on your way out. Here's the freaking
Kick to the
hurt
body.
rib. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Because Conor was chasing a little bit too much in that last one. He did land some of those those power lefts,
But he left himself open.
He did leave himself open. He got countered for it a couple times, and it's at the end of his punch. Most of the momentum of that punch was gone. It still hurt Poirier, but that's not the best shot.
It's not the best punch.
He saw it coming. He knew it was coming. Literally every step that he did was to prevent that from hitting him. So Conor is gonna have to mix it up a little bit when he has Poirier's back against the cage. The other thing that Poirier likes to do is he likes to throw the lead overhand to get Conor to back up, and he'll switch stances to affirm that new ground that he just covered. Now, McGregor has a bit of an advantage at holding the center of the octagon, but when his back is against the cage, he really only has two options. One, he likes to dip to his left and roll punches, like a traditional boxer, kind of.
Right, kind of like a Tyson.
Yeah.
Kind of dip.
Yeah,
Throw
that
counters.
little quick dip. Yeah. But Poirier picked up on this in the second fight and ultimately gets the TKO because of it. Poirier picked up on it. Conor did the same dip 3 or 4 times, but I think on the 4th time,
You caught him
Poirier
with that uppercut.
caught him clean with it. Yeah, Poirier saw it, and that's really
Right
good
on
to
the-
see from Poirier.
Right on the freaking nose, man. That was beautiful.
Yeah. McGregor was doing a lot of that against Nate Diaz, and it was working because of Diaz's style. And Diaz did land some power, but if you look back at that Diaz fight, when Conor's back's against the cage and he's doing all the dip and roll, he was avoiding almost all that damage from Nate Diaz. He was blocking most of it, rolling, slipping a lot of it. But that's not going to work on Poirier because Poirier loves those hooks. That's honestly his strongest punches, his hooks.
Yeah, dude. Very strong.
The other thing that Conor does is similar to Dustin Poirier is he brings up his high guard, but Conor doesn't rotate out. Maybe he didn't rotate out specifically because his leg was messed up, but I doubt it. I just think he was just trying to technically strike with Dustin Poirier, but that's not.
People say it's from the leg kicks. I don't think it's from the leg kicks.
No. I think he just was trying to
Got beat up
outbox his
top.
way and get
Yeah.
an angle to get off the cage. But yeah, no, that's not where Conor wants to be, and Conor knows that. And another thing about the high guard is that Poirier, like I said, he loves those hooks. I think that's his best punch, like either of the punches from either stance. But those hooks creep right around that high guard, and then when Conor dips, Poirier has the right hook when he dips to his left, and then if Conor just lowers his head with the high guard, Dustin would also throw the uppercuts. Dustin would swarm him.
God, he is such a big lightweight.
Yeah.
He is such a heavy lightweight.
He was definitely bigger than McGregor in there. They're about the same size, but McGregor has that smaller waist.
It doesn't
slimmer.
look like it, dude.
Yeah. When Poirier controls the center of the octagon, he mixes up his boxing wonderfully. He throws jabs when Conor isn't being responsible with his defense. He throws lead hooks when Conor has the high guard. He throws uppercuts when Conor lowers his head, and he times the right hooks when Conor dips to his left and does that dip to the left boxing technique. He likes to swarm Conor when he gets him there due to McGregor being vulnerable to breaking under pressure.
Yep.
Poirier needs this to be a dogfight, and he can't let Conor keep his wits about him. Because if he would have taken it slow against Conor when we had Conor's back against the cage, Conor might have technically got himself out of that situation. But Poirier swarmed him, and Conor just got overwhelmed, and his brain couldn't process all of what was going on.
If Conor's flowing, Conor can get those shots off, and
he could knock you out with his back against the cage if you're not careful.
Yeah.
But when you're swarming him, and there's too much for him to think about and try to break down in his head, he just he got caught standing still there. He looked like a deer in the headlights. Like he didn't know what to do. When Conor does control the center of the octagon, he likes to, one, throw a snappy jab right through or sometimes even under the guard of Poirier. Two, he likes to pull down the lead or the rear hand of Poirier and throw that straight.
Kind of cat pawed out.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
And three, basically what he does almost every fight, the whole fight, throwing 1-2 from different angles. He loves the 1-2. His 1-2 is impeccable. I think he uses a little bit too much, but it just keeps working.
If it's not if it's not broke, why fix it?
Right, I agree with that sentiment. I think Conor needs to play a little bit more patient this time around and make sure that he's cutting off Dustin's lines of escape. I think he got carried away chasing Poirier in their last fight, and it led to Dustin getting himself out of harm's way against the cage.
Kind of reaching, getting desperate for that knockout.
Yeah, and I think this is really where Conor's potential body kicks or body hooks could come into play
on the way out.
Yeah, because Dustin's putting up that high guard, and he's rotating away from Conor's power side. So if Conor throws a lead body kick or a spinning back kick, I think it could catch Poirier on his way out.
At least give him something to think about from now on.
Yeah, and it might drop those hands a little. Like we got to see Conor mixing up a little bit more if he's going to want to get Dustin, because Dustin is doing a really good job at seeing the punches that are coming, because it's really just a 1-2 for the most part, and then a lean in uppercut. He's taking most of the power off the punch by getting mostly out of the way and getting to the end of that punch.
Well, he's experienced Conor's most dangerous punch multiple times, so I mean it makes sense for him to get a game plan to stay away from that.
Right. All right, guys, it's time for the official picks.
Who you got?
This one's a hard one to call because either man could walk away with the win. Both camps are likely predicting all kinds of things from the other, so this next fight will certainly have different factors than we saw from this first two. Ultimately, though, I'm going to go with Conor McGregor by a second round KO.
I predict Conor as well. I don't know how fast, though.
I think the Conor's going to be very urgent for the finish because he knows those calf kicks are coming.
That's what I'm saying. If he wants this to end, it's going to have to be in the first or second round.
Yeah, I think he's going to come out really rushing for that KO, and I think he's going to get it. I see Poirier not being able to get the takedown early, and I see him giving up too much ground in the center of the octagon. And I think Conor's going to do a lot better job this time at cutting Dustin off from escaping.
Kind of gauging where and when he can land those punches.
Yeah, he needs to play a little bit more patient, but I think he's still going to come out very aggressive. From there, I see Conor throwing a 1-2 that slips just outside the guard of Poirier and lands behind the ear. That's what my crystal ball tells me, at least. This fight could go either way, and I would not be surprised if Poirier grinds out a win, with Conor maybe surviving and him getting the decision, or maybe hinders his movement enough to expose not only McGregor's lack of persistence through adversity, but some of his fundamental defensive flaws. Conor uses his great footwork and his head movement to avoid the majority of the damage coming his way. When he loses that, that's like 50% of Conor's defense.
is his mobility around the cage, being able to dance around.
I'm gonna get away from that.
Being able to angle those punches at the right time.
Angling his punches is a big one. Throwing that 1-2 from a different angle. Cut that angle just a slight.
That's what makes such a simple
slice.
move so dangerous with Conor McGregor.
Yeah,
is the way he uses it.
He has so many different ways to use that basic combination. One of the first combinations you learn in boxing, 1-2. And Conor, I think, is just one of the best in the world at throwing a 1-2. I really like both of these gentlemen, and it's hard to watch a fighter that you admire lose, but someone has to lose on that night.
There are very few to no draws in this game, especially whenever it comes to fighters of this caliber.
Yeah, that's just the way of the fight game. Anyway, guys, with that, we will wrap up our thoughts and breakdown on UFC 264's main event, Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor. I'd like to thank you, Cole, for being here and sharing your thoughts.
And thank you for having me on here, bro.
I'd like to thank our technical engineer, the 9-Pro Ninja himself, Sean Myers. I'd also like to thank the fighters for going up on the world stage and laying it all on the line. Lastly, but certainly not least, I'd like to thank everyone who entered the Kumite with us here today. Remember, this is not a sport. You don't play fight.